The galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. Across millions of stars, trade ships moved, colonies lived, and empires fought their small wars. But in that moment, something strange happened, something no one was ready for. At the very edge of the galaxy, a dark shadow appeared. It was not a comet, not a natural rock, and not a known starship. The object was massive, moving slowly but with purpose. Every sensor, every scanner, every machine that watched the sky began to scream warnings. Unknown vessel detected. Unknown vessel detected. The alarms rang again, and again the nearby alien outpost woke in panic. Soldiers rushed, commanders shouted orders, but no one understood what they were looking at. The ship gave no signal, no lights, no answer to the many calls. Silence, only silence. It was as if the dark object was not a ship at all, but a nightmare that had taken form. The local fleet moved closer, trying to identify it, but the closer they came, the colder they felt. The readings were impossible. One single ship, yet heavier than a planet, larger than anything ever recorded. Its armor shone like black stone, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Its shape was strange, sharp angles, brutal design. Nothing like the graceful alien ships of the galaxy. Rumors began to spread. Some said it was a ghost ship. Some said it was a weapon from another galaxy. But then an old word returned, whispered in fear across stations and fleets. Earth. Many did not understand, but the oldest races remembered. Long ago, humans had been part of the stars. They had fought wars. They had vanished suddenly and no one knew why. For centuries, only legends remained. Legends of a species that refused to bow. Legends of ships that never surrendered. And now, in the deep cold of space, one of their ships had returned. The council of the local system tried to stay calm. Messages flew across subspace, calling for help, begging for the Central Empires to respond. But fear had already begun its work. The battleship did not fire, did not move aggressively. It only drifted closer, and that was enough to terrify entire worlds. Its silence was louder than war, its presence was heavier than an army. The stars themselves seemed dimmer near it, as if the galaxy was holding its breath, waiting. A brave captain of an alien scout ship made the first move. He ordered his vessel to approach the dark giant. The crew begged him not to, but he said, "We must know." His ship crossed the void, came close, scanners reaching out. For one moment, data filled the screens, endless data. Then everything went black. No signal, no voice, no trace. The scout ship was gone, as if erased from existence. Panic spread. Fleets pulled back, stations shut down their lights, hiding. But there was no hiding. Every empire, every ruler, every leader began to ask the same question. What happens if this is only the beginning? If one battleship from Earth has returned, how many more will come? The galaxy had no answer, only fear, and still the ship drifted forward, silent, unstoppable, unknown. The silent arrival had begun. The galaxy had known war for thousands of years. Empires rose and fell, fleets clashed, weapons fired. But none of that prepared them for this. The silent arrival had changed everything. One ship, one silent shadow, and the stars themselves felt smaller. Fear spread faster than light, carried in messages, in rumors, in trembling voices. Across trade routes, pilots whispered to each other, "Have you heard? The old ones have returned." Merchants stopped their journeys. Planets closed their borders. Fleets recalled their ships. No one wanted to be the next to vanish. No one wanted to be near the human battleship. In the shining halls of the Galactic Council, panic ruled. Alien leaders shouted over each other, their voices desperate. "This cannot be real," said one. "It is only a trick," said another. But the data was undeniable. Every scan, every probe, every terrified report confirmed. If the ship was real, and it was far beyond their understanding. The oldest empires remembered the stories. Humans had once walked the stars like giants. They were few in number, but their courage was endless. They were called reckless, dangerous, impossible to control. And when they vanished, many were relieved. But now, their return was not a dream. Not a hope, but a nightmare. Across the galaxy, weapons were prepared, armies were placed on alert. Still, no one dared make the first strike. How do you fight something you cannot measure, something you cannot even understand? The ship's weapons were unseen, its technology unreadable. Even the most advanced sensors could not pierce its black armor. It was as if the void itself had been forged into steel. Small fleets tried to approach, hoping to study it, but they never returned. The few signals that came back were filled with static and screams. And then, silence. Always silence. The galaxy began to believe the humans had come not as explorers, not as wanderers, but as executioners. On distant worlds, fear took new shapes. Some races began to worship the ship, calling it the harbinger of the end. Others prepared to surrender, even before a demand was made. And some swore they would fight, even though their voices shook with terror. No one agreed, no one united. Fear had divided them all. Meanwhile, the ship continued its slow journey. It moved toward the heart of the galaxy with steady purpose. No words, no messages, no warning, only its shadow stretching farther. Every system it passed through fell silent. Stations were abandoned, colonies evacuated. Entire sectors went dark, hoping the ship would not notice them. The Council tried to send envoys, desperate for answers, but the humans did not reply. No communication, no negotiations, nothing. It was as if the battleship was not a ship at all, but a verdict, and the galaxy itself was the accused, in secret. Some leaders spoke of hope. They said maybe it was only one ship, maybe humanity was weak, scattered, but deep in their hearts they knew the truth. If one ship could cause this much fear, how powerful was the fleet behind it? And if there was no fleet, if it was truly alone, then it was even worse. Because a single ship that could terrify an entire galaxy was not a ship. It was a weapon. The stars that had once felt eternal now seemed fragile. Every light in the sky looked smaller, colder, weaker, because above them all drifted the battleship of Earth, silent, unstoppable, unknown. The galaxy was no longer fighting small wars or old grudges. Now they were fighting fear itself, and fear was winning. The panic in the stars had only just begun. The galaxy was trembling, and yet the battleship moved slowly, calmly, as if it owned the stars. Every empire was watching. Every ruler was waiting, but no one dared to act. So the Galactic Council was called, the highest gathering of power in the known universe. It was held in a secret station, hidden in the orbit of a dark star, where shadows swallowed light. Only the most powerful leaders were invited, the ones who ruled entire civilizations. The chamber was vast, filled with voices of 100 species. Some had skin of crystal, some were nothing but energy, some were covered in scales. But all of them shared one thing: fear. The air was thick with it, the silence between words heavier than the void. For hours they shouted, argued, blamed, until finally the high speaker demanded silence. "We must face what has returned," he said, his voice shaking. Humanity. The word itself carried weight. Some leaders refused to believe it, calling it a lie. Others demanded proof, even though the proof already filled their screens. Old records were shown, fragments of history kept hidden for centuries, videos of humans fighting wars, of human fleets defying entire empires. They were fewer in number, but their will was fire, and their ships were storms. One elder, with skin as pale as the moon, whispered, "They should have died out. They should have been erased." Another, with eyes like burning suns, said, "No, they vanished because they chose to, and now they return because they are ready." The chamber grew colder, every word sinking like a blade into the hearts of those who listened. The council tried to understand. Why had the humans come back? Why only one ship? Why now? Some believed it was a warning, a signal that more were coming. Others thought it was a test, a way to measure the galaxy's fear. But no one had an answer, and in that silence, shadows grew deeper. A young ruler stood, her voice clear but trembling. "We must unite. If we stand together, maybe we can resist." Her words were noble, but the others laughed bitterly. Unite. In a galaxy where empires hated each other, where wars never ended, where greed ruled every throne. It was a dream, nothing more. And yet, they all knew it was the only chance they had. The Council's secret archives were opened. Ancient files revealed the truth of past wars with humanity. Stories of battles where fleets 10 times stronger had been broken. Stories of soldiers who faced humans and said they looked like death walking. And stories of the last war, the war that ended with humanity's disappearance. Some said they went beyond the galaxy, into the dark between galaxies. Some said they evolved into something greater, and now, no one knew what they had become. In the shadows of the chamber, spies listened, sending messages back to their empires. Each empire planned in secret, pretending to be allies, but preparing to save only themselves. Some thought they could bargain with the humans, offer tribute, surrender before war began. Others thought they could strike first, destroy the ship before more arrived. But deep down, everyone felt the same cold truth. It was already too late. At last, the High Speaker spoke again. "We are no longer rulers of the stars. We are prey, and the hunter has returned." His words echoed in silence. The leaders looked at each other, none willing to admit it, but all knowing it was true. The Council of Shadows ended with no plan, no unity, only fear. And as they left, each leader carried the same image in their mind. The black battleship of Earth, drifting closer, unstoppable, silent. The galaxy was already kneeling even before the first command was spoken. The Council of Shadows had spoken, but the stars still trembled. The black battleship drifted closer to the center of the galaxy. Every system it passed through fell silent, as if even the stars were afraid to shine. Colonies were abandoned, fleets pulled back, trade routes shut down. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the first word, the first sign, the first strike. But the ship gave nothing, no voice, no answer, only silence. The Galactic Council argued for days, but at last they made a choice. They would send a fleet, not to attack, but to meet. They called it a diplomatic mission. Though every soldier knew the truth, it was bait, a test, a way to see if the humans still knew mercy. Thousands of ships were gathered, the best from a dozen empires. Their weapons were armed, but their signals were polite. They called out to the ship again and again, "Unknown vessel, identify yourself." But no reply came. The fleet's commanders grew nervous. Some demanded retreat, others demanded fire. But the order was clear: approach and wait. So they did, their ships surrounding the dark giant like insects around a beast. Compared to the battleship, they were small, fragile, weak. Still, they moved closer, trying to show strength. Inside the ship's alien crews whispered, "What if it is only a relic? What if it is empty, but deep?" In their hearts, they knew it was not. The silence was not the silence of death, it was the silence of patience, like a predator waiting for the moment to strike. At last, the leading admiral gave the order. "Transmit a welcome signal." Across the void, bright beams of light carried messages: peace, negotiation, respect. But the battleship did not reply. Its black surface swallowed the light like a bottomless sea. Its weapons stayed hidden, but every sensor felt the same thing: power, endless power. Minutes passed like hours, then hours felt like years, and still there was no answer. The admiral clenched his fists, his voice trembling. "We will wait. No longer." A command was given. A single small ship moved closer. It was meant to dock, to make the first contact. Its engines flared. It crossed the void. And then, light, blinding light. For 1 second, the galaxy itself seemed to explode. Every sensor screamed, every ship shook, every crew member fell in terror. And when the light faded, the small ship was gone. No debris, no survivors, no sound, only silence. 1,000 ships had witnessed it, and not one understood what had happened. No weapon was seen, no missile, no beam. The smaller ship had simply ceased to exist. Panic filled the fleet. Some captains turned their ships away, trying to flee. Others demanded to fire, their fear greater than their orders. the admiral shouted, trying to hold them together. But before another word could be said, the battleship moved, only a little, only enough to show it was not a relic, not a shadow but alive. Its engines glowed with fire older than stars, and with that glow every fleet ship froze. A voice filled the comms, calm, cold, human. You will not approach again. Only 6 words, but they carried the weight of 1,000 wars. The galaxy had waited for contact, and this was it. Not peace, not friendship, but a warning. The humans had spoken, the fleet scattered, their formation broken. Some fled into hyperspace. Others drifted in silence, too afraid to move. The admiral stayed trembling, his voice lost, his command meaningless. He had wanted peace. He had prayed for negotiation, but now he understood this was no meeting, no welcome, no talk of alliance. This was first contact, and the galaxy had failed it. The galaxy had waited for the humans to speak, and at last, after silence and fear, a voice came. It was not loud, not cruel, but calm, steady, unshaken. A human voice, carried across every star, every ship, every station. Every world heard it. We are here to reclaim what was ours. The words spread like fire, burning across empires. In command rooms, rulers froze. In colonies, citizens wept. In fleets, soldiers trembled. For centuries, the galaxy had feared this moment, and now it was real. The humans were not explorers, not wanderers, but conquerors returning home. The message was simple, but its meaning was heavy. No offers, no promises, no requests, only a declaration. Reclaim. The word echoed in every language. What did they mean? What did they want? Planets, fleets, resources, respect, or everything? No one knew, but all feared the answer. The Galactic Council tried to respond. A chorus of leaders sent transmissions begging, demanding, pleading. Some said, "Let us talk. Let us make peace." Others shouted, "You cannot take what is not yours." But the battleship ignored them. It gave no reply, no answer, only the same repeating signal. We are here to reclaim what was ours. On the outer colonies, panic spread. Civilians packed ships fleeing into the void. Worlds that had never seen war prepared for invasion. Some governments collapsed, their people too afraid to stand. Others swore loyalty to the humans before even meeting them. Fear was stronger than loyalty, stronger than reason, stronger than hope. The alien fleets that survived the first contact told their stories. They spoke of a ship that destroyed without firing, a ship that erased enemies like shadows in light. They described the human voice, cold and calm like a judge speaking a sentence. The stories spread, and soon every child, every elder, every ruler knew them. The galaxy was no longer united by trade, by war, or by politics. It was united by fear of Earth. Scholars searched the archives. They looked for answers in the old records of humanity. They found stories of human wars, of battles where humans fought until nothing remained. They found tales of invention, of weapons built from stars, of engines faster than thought, and they found warnings written by ancient rulers. Do not awaken Earth, for if they rise again, the galaxy will fall. Those words were once forgotten, now they were remembered too late. Meanwhile, the battleship continued its path. It did not speed, it did not hide, it only moved forward. Every empire watched, powerless to stop it. Its shadow grew longer, its presence heavier, and with every passing day the galaxy understood. This was not a visit, not a return, but a conquest. On one hidden world, a rebel leader spoke to his people. We have two choices, bow or burn, he said. But if we bow, we lose everything. If we burn, at least we fight. His words sparked a flame, but it was small, weak compared to the fear around it. Most were already choosing to bow, to surrender, to survive. The humans had not fired again, but their words were sharper than any weapon. And then, after days of silence, another message came. This time it was longer, heavier, filled with certainty. We left to grow stronger, and we have returned stronger still. The galaxy shivered as the message spread. It was not only about reclaiming, it was about ruling. Not a request, not a question, but destiny. The voice of Earth had spoken, and the stars themselves seemed to bow. The galaxy had heard the voice of Earth. Some bowed in silence, some trembled, in fear, but not all. There were still empires proud enough, arrogant enough, desperate enough to believe they could resist, and so, the first true war against humanity began. The Korean Empire, rulers of 1,000 systems, were the first to strike. Their armadas were legendary, fleets stretching across the stars. Their soldiers were bred for war, their ships built for destruction. They had fought countless enemies and crushed them all. To them, the idea of surrendering to a single ship was madness. And so they gathered everything they had. 10,000 ships, from battleships to carriers, surrounded the human vessel. Their formation blocked every path, their weapons charged. With the fire of suns, the galaxy watched, hoping, praying, that the Koreans would succeed. For if they fell, then what hope was left? The command was given, and the sky burned. Missiles, beams, plasma fire, every weapon unleashed at once. The void lit up brighter than a star. A storm of death crashing down on the battleship. For a moment, the galaxy dared to believe. For a moment, it seemed humanity could bleed. But then the light cleared and the human ship remained, untouched. Its armor absorbed the fury of 10,000 guns. Its shadow spread wider, darker, heavier. The Korean fleets hesitated, their commanders shouting for another strike. Again weapons fired, again the storm raged, and again the battleship stood unharmed. Then came the answer. Not from cannons, not from missiles, but from silence. The human ship did not fire beams or rockets. It simply pulsed, one single wave of invisible energy, and in that instant, half the Korean fleet went dark, engines dead, weapons offline, crews screaming in confusion. Their ships drifted powerless like toys in the void. A second pulse came. This time ships did not just die, they vanished. No explosion, no debris, no trace. Entire vessels erased from existence. In minutes, thousands of warships were gone. The proud Korean armada was reduced to whispers and echoes. The survivors begged for mercy. Their signals filled the void with desperate cries. But the battleship gave no reply. It moved forward, slow and steady, as if swatting aside insects. The once great empire of Kor fell in a single night. Worlds that had sworn loyalty to their banner now bent their knees to Earth, and the galaxy understood anew. Truth, resistance was not war, resistance was suicide. Yet still, other empires tried. The Seraph Dominion, the Vexen clans, the Drylock hives, each brought their fleets, each launched their weapons, each was destroyed. Some lasted hours, some lasted minutes. None survived, the battleship did not. Even slow, it did not roar with fury. It did not boast with pride, it simply erased one empire at a time. On distant worlds, the news spread like fire. People no longer asked who will win. They asked who will surrender first. And many did, entire planets sending messages of loyalty to the humans before they even arrived. The galaxy was breaking, one empire after another, and the battleship of Earth had not yet shown its full power. In the council chambers, leaders wept, their fleets gone, their soldiers lost, their defenses shattered. Some called for unity, some called for surrender. But deep inside, they all knew the truth. The age of empires was over. The age of Earth had begun, empires fell, and the galaxy screamed. But the battleship moved on, calm, unstoppable, silent. The war was no longer a war, it was a lesson, and the lesson was clear. No one stood against Earth and lived. The galaxy had seen the fall of empires. They had watched fleets burn, armies vanish, and worlds surrender. The battleship of Earth had crushed all resistance without effort. But what came next was worse than fear of destruction. It was the return of the legends. On hidden stations and old archives, scholars searched the past. They read the forgotten stories of humanity, tales once dismissed as myth, now too real to ignore. In the ancient wars, humans were not only warriors, they were builders, dreamers, and creators beyond imagination. They shaped technology as easily as other races shaped stone. They turned stars into weapons and time into a tool, and every story said the same thing. Humans never stopped, never rested, never surrendered. The oldest record, kept by a dying empire, described a battle near the Galactic rim, 1,000 ships from 3 species against a single human fleet. The humans did not retreat. They did not ask for peace. They fought until their enemies broke, until their enemies fled. It was not numbers that gave them victory, but will, a will so strong it frightened even those who won. Now, with the battleship drifting through the stars, those old words returned. Do not awaken Earth, for they cannot be chained. The galaxy realized the warnings were not poetry. They were truth written in blood. And then came the whispers. Whispers that chilled every empire. What if this battleship was not their strongest weapon? What if this ship was not even new? What if it was ancient, a relic left behind? And if such a relic could crush entire empires, what had humanity become? In the time they were gone, some said humans had mastered black holes, that they lived inside stars and commanded them like pets. Others said they had learned to rewrite reality itself, that their weapons could erase not just ships, but history. Every rumor was more terrifying than the last, and no one could tell which was truth and which was madness. But then, the battleship proved the stories were real. On a barren world, once destroyed by war, it released machines. Tiny silver constructs poured from its hull like rivers of light. They spread across the planet, repairing, rebuilding, restoring. In days, the dead world bloomed again, forests rising, oceans filling, cities forming. The aliens who saw it were struck silent. The humans had not only destroyed, they had remade. They had taken a graveyard and turned it into a jewel. It was then the galaxy understood. Humanity was not just a species of war. They were a force of change. Where they walked, empires fell, but also worlds were reborn. The balance of creation and destruction was theirs to command, and the galaxy had no defense against either. The legends were alive, not myths, not lies, but truth. Truth that had returned to claim the stars. The humans had been gone for centuries, but in their absence they had only grown stronger. Stronger in power, stronger in will, stronger in vision. Now they had returned not only to conquer, but to shape the galaxy in their image, across the stars, hope and terror mixed. Some prayed humans would remake their broken worlds. Others prayed humans would never notice them. But all understood one thing. This was not just war, it was transformation, and no one could stop it. The galaxy whispered the old words once again. Fear. The builders, fear the warriors, fear the dreamers. For the legends were no longer stories, they were flesh, steel, and fire, and the battleship of Earth was only the beginning. Legends had been reborn, and the galaxy trembled. The galaxy had seen the battleship destroy. The galaxy had seen the battleship rebuild. Now the galaxy waited for something else. They waited for words, for truth, for a reason. And finally, the humans spoke again. This time, it was not only one sentence. It was a broadcast sent to every star, every world, every ship. No one could block it, no one could hide from it. The voice of Earth filled the skies, calm, steady, certain. We left this galaxy long ago, the message began. We left because it was too small. The words cut deep, simple yet heavy. The galaxy had thought humanity vanished because they were weak. Now they realized the truth was far worse. The OE. Humans had left by choice, the voice continued. We traveled into the dark, beyond the rim, beyond the stars you fear to cross. We went where no empire dared to go, and we survived. We became more than what we were. And now, we have returned. Every ruler, every leader, every citizen listened in silence. No one spoke, no one moved. The humans spoke as if the galaxy itself belonged to them. Not asking, not requesting, but declaring. It was not arrogance, it was certainty. We do not come to beg, the humans said. We do not come to ask. We come to reclaim, to restore, to rebuild, and to rule. Because once this galaxy was ours, and now it will be again. The message spread to distant colonies. On poor worlds, people cheered. They saw humans as saviors, bringers of strength. On rich worlds, people wept. They saw humans as conquerors, destroyers of their power. But no one ignored the words. No one could. The council gathered again. This time they did not shout. They did not argue. They sat in silence, their faces pale, their voices weak. For the human message had left no space for hope. There was no negotiation, no treaty, no bargain, only the reality of a new order. The humans spoke again. You built your empires while we were gone. You fought your wars, you claimed your thrones, but all of it was borrowed time. All of it was built in our shadow, and now the shadow has returned. Some empires tried to hide the message. They cut broadcasts, silenced their people, destroyed the recordings, but it was useless. The words had already burned into the minds of billions. Every soldier, every child, every ruler knew them. The humans had spoken, and the galaxy could not unhear. A rebel commander whispered to his fleet, "They do not sound like enemies, they sound like kings." Another, on a dying world, cried out, "If they can rebuild planets, let them rule, let them guide." And so division spread. Some prepared to resist, some prepared to kneel, but all waited for the next move. The battleship remained silent after the message. It drifted onward, unstoppable, untouchable. No more shots, no more destruction, only silence again. But this silence was worse than fire, because now the galaxy knew what it meant. The humans were not just here. They were claiming everything. At last, the voice ended with one final sentence. Your galaxy has reached its end, and our age begins. The words echoed in every language. The words lived in every mind. And as the battleship glowed against the stars, the galaxy bowed in terror, for the human message had been spoken, and there was no way back.